And as a reminder, for more Microsoft Webcasts, you can visit Microsoft.com/webcast. And again, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's Msdn Webcast, the Russ and Joe Developer Show, Windows Workflow Foundation Exposed. And now, without any further delay, I'm going to turn the floor over to today's first presenter, Russ Msdn.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Russ and Joe Developer Show. Joe, looks like we got a good number here in the room, over 50 people.
I heard there were over 110 registered for this, Russ. So
oh, boy, that's
impressive.
Good. Well, thought I'd start out as usual giving the beautiful weather forecast down here in Florida. I think, let's see, I'm not even going to look outside. I think it's 80 and sunny. Is that right, Joe?
Well, Russ, you know, I got to confess, this Sunday I had to turn on the air conditioning for the first time since, December. You know, I did manage to run the heat once this winter, and all the dust came screaming out. But you know what's even hotter down here in Florida than the weather?
What?
It would be the sports scene. So we are sitting here with the two reigning national champions in collegiate sports, of the sports that actually count. So we got football and basketball sitting here in the state of Florida right now.
Yeah, that was a great game Monday night. I was really enjoying that.
All right, so enough gloating. On to,
right.
I got a question of somebody saying, this will be good. Florida boo from Chaz. All
right, come on. Well, we'll take a little poll here and see where everybody's from.
Chaz, I got to love you going after it, baby. You don't have the passion, get off the pitch. There you go, man.
All right. Hey, we got a few folks from Florida this morning, Joe, and there's afternoon, I should say, over here, Eastern Standard Time. Morning everywhere else in the U.S.
Russ, from Corbett Kohler, we actually got a Go Gators.
Oh, boy. That's great. That's great.
All right, sorry.
I know. We're having fun with that. That's okay, because we won.
We're going to have fun with this for a while, don't worry.
All right, so you can go ahead and show the results, Tracy, on these polls. We got about 12% from Florida, 34% from the rest of the East, so a very big East contingent overall. 9 Central West, we got 7 Canada, 8%. Looks like we have worldwide. We got a few folks in there too as well. So all over the globe here today. And so we're going to be talking about workflow today. Just curious, have you done any workflow programs using .NET 3.0? So if you can kind of give us an experience level set here in the group, we'd appreciate it so we can kind of guide the presentation accordingly.
Russ, you're going to have to be the guider and the teacher here. Looks like most people, 88% so far, have not used the workflow stuff. So
okay, well, you're in for a good time.
91% now. Oof.
Yep. Well, you know, Joe, about a year ago, I think we were over at Tech Ed. It might have been the one up in Boston, and I skipped all the workflow sessions. And the reason I didn't go to any of the workflow sessions back then is I just thought, you know, hey, you know, this is all about BizTalk. And because every time I've heard the workflow term, I've always heard it used with BizTalk. Now, for those that don't know, BizTalk is our really great server product. It's a great product for controlling messaging and workflow, and very high-end with lots of adapters and things of that nature. However, what workflow is really about nowadays, of course, it's part of the .NET 3.0 framework, and what it allows you as the developer to do is to write your own workflow applications, and that's what we're going to be focusing in on here today. Now, what type of apps would this be good for? Well, the way I like to think about it is basically these are the types of applications that would run over the course of time. The application can run, you know, an hour, a day, a week, and along the way there are points where certain pieces of the application need to get kicked in for a variety of different events that might be happening. For example, if you go ahead and do a simple order entry application, say on the website, and the person comes to your site and they order a product, and the ordering part went good, but however your inventory doesn't have the materials that the person ordered in it at the moment. So what has to happen is that order kind of process has to hang until inventory gets replenished, and once the inventory gets replenished, then that order process can continue, and then go ahead and fulfill the order, ship the order, and then what happens if the person returns the order, and then there's a lot of different things that could happen along the way in terms of the flow, and the flow really varies in terms of how long it could take. So some good examples here on the screen. Other examples might be programs that involve people who may decide to change the process as it's unfolding. So a lot of times you might need a boss, for example, to do a sign-off on maybe a review process you might be having at work. Also programs that are transparent, what's the status of my order, what are the next steps. So again, sometimes you just want to go ahead and query at any point in time what that particular status is. So a lot of these are typical examples of workflow, and those are the type of examples we'll be talking about today. And let me tell you, this is some really great stuff we're going to actually be showing here today, and the great stuff it is because we haven't had a good tool set like this to create this type of application ever. And this has really been a big hole. I mean, I've talked to a lot of developers after doing a lot of the launch events. I think, Joe, probably you too, where, out of WCF, the Communication Foundation, the Presentation Foundation, WPF, Workflow, and CardSpace, the big 4 ticket items in the .NET 3.0 framework, most people really get excited about Workflow. And the reason is they just haven't had the tool. This is brand new stuff that's available to you to go ahead and create these type of apps. So, wouldn't you agree, Joe?
I would agree, and there were, a lot of people were trying to use BizTalk as kind of a low-end workflow, and it wound up, just really costing a lot of money, or they would wind up just putting in munges and munges of spaghetti code for something that's really well handled by some of the executions in here. Particularly, are you going to do a state management demo later on?
Yeah, I'm going to show a state machine. Absolutely.
That order demo. So yeah, there's a few things in here. One is simplifying existing code. It's one thing to try and trace through, a workflow that's all if blocks in code, but when you can get it visually laid out, it's a beautiful thing. And then the second thing would be, some of the more complicated flows that are handled by the state workflows are pretty nice. Let's see. And one question, Russ. They went to Russ Toolshed to .NET to download the code from the last webcast, but couldn't find the link. What's the URL for the source code?
Oh yeah, I haven't put it up there yet. Sorry.
All right, so I'll reply back. He's slacking.
I've had about. Oh, never mind. It's just a lot of work I've had to do the last few days. So it's on my list though. I haven't forgotten about it. Put it that way. So I'll put the source code up there, as well as the source code for today. We're going to show you. I'll go to a URL later where that's at. And there's also another great sample app. Now, while I'm thinking of it, I'm not going to be showing it here today. This is the app that we showed during the launch event show. It's the dinnernow.net.
Yeah.
So if you go to that website, in fact, I'll put a little square here on the screen. www.dinnernow.net. That's an actual live website with fake website with live code. So you could go out there and pretend you're ordering something, but really the usefulness of that site, of course, is the source code that you can download. And there's a lot of great workflow as part of that application. So that's a good, almost as real world as you can get, free sample code that you can download. So I just want to throw that resource out while I'm thinking of it, and we'll have a lot more to show you a little bit later on. These were the 4 pieces that we just walked through about what we had covered during the launch events. The presentation layer, the Communication Foundation, Workflow, and CardSpace. Now, .NET 3.0 comes embedded in Vista, so you already have that if you have the Vista bits. You can also download it on XP as well to run there. So what is a workflow? Basically, it's a program declared as a set of activities. Now, I know many folks, when I do this session live, have done things like workflow flowcharts. All right, this is back, we've done flowcharts, many of us, for quite some time. For those that haven't, it's very simple, decision tree. You can see there in the middle, a little diamond, and you got a couple of flows that spawn off of that depending on the condition. Or a state diagram might be appropriate, where you have a status that keeps changing the state of the process. And of course you have rules-based, which would be like a large case statement. So we're going to go over these in detail a little bit later on in terms of the workflow, but that's kind of a rough idea of what those are. Also, the Workflow Foundation then, really, the new abbreviation for workflow is WF. It used to be WWF, and so we Took a little flack from that from the World Wrestling Federation, Joe, so we had to go ahead and rename that to WF.
Actually, we took respect for flack from the World Wildlife Federation.
Oh, is that what it was? Not
WWF is no longer the World Wrestling. Russ, you know, you go to the amateur wrestling nights, you sit there and you watch the amateur wrestling nights. You should know this stuff.
I know it. I should. And
that's just scary in itself.
But I'll tell you what, let's get going here. We're going to actually build a demo. We're going to build a workflow right from scratch. This is actually good because many of you have never actually done some programming yet with workflow, so we're going to actually create one from scratch. So what I have here is I got my VPC image, and I've got a instance of Visual Studio already loaded up. I also added into the Visual Studio a regular old ASP.NET web project. And that's going to be the client for our workflows. In other words, we're going to be calling the workflow through this web page that we're going to put up on our website. So next thing we want to do is actually get into the new stuff here that we're here for, which is actually adding a new project in. A new project type is going to be a workflow type, and you get this after you install the workflow the SDK. And what we'll see here is we've got different types. We've got the workflow console, workflow library. We've got activities. We'll talk about those a little bit later on. We're building some of those. Those are kind of like the equivalent of components in a workflow. A state machine, like Joe alluded to, where you have various states that can go through the process. So what we're going to do for this particular application, we're going to choose the sequential workflow library to get things started out. And let's go ahead and call this thing the demo workflow library. Okay, so that's all set. And then this is our basic sequential workflow design that comes in. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete that, add in another one that I have here. So we'll go ahead and add in a new item here. I'll show you the different items you can add in. This is why I wanted to do that, just so you can see all the different possible items that we have nowadays. And we had a ton here once you start loading up all the WPF and all the other SDKs. But what I'm going to go ahead and load in here is the one that's called the sequential workflow with code in a separate file. And you can see that listed right up here. And basically, this is a sequential workflow with definition expressed as XAML in the user code in a separate file. So you got code behind basically, and then you're using XAML for the front end. Now, it's not. You notice the extension here. It's not XAML. It's XOML. It's just that's really just done there so the parser in Visual Studio can detect it's actually a workflow and not a WPF XAML file for display purposes. But the point is that XAML is not just for display. We can really work with objects as well, which is what we're doing here in this particular layout. So let's go ahead and call this thing pricing workflow. I'm going to add that in. And now you can see you've got the designer up on top here. And you can see you've got ready to go ahead and drag activities. Now, if you take a look over here at the left side over in the toolbox, in fact, let's kind of bring it out dead center so you all can see it real easy. Several different controls are available to just drag and drop onto the design surface. Several of them including a code workflow control. So in other words, you can drag that onto your diagram, double-click it, put in some code into the execute event.
Well, one point about that code thing, this is a code block where you got the full power of the .NET framework behind it. So you do have the ability to create your own custom activities in this thing and do some things like that, but the very fact that you can insert a full .NET runtime code block in there means that you can insert any custom code block in there. If you can imagine writing it, then you can do it in that context, and that is very, very, very powerful.
Yep, and we're actually going to show use of that code in a little bit. We're going to drag that particular control on the diagram in a little bit. The other thing I wanted to point out here is some of these other controls, just kind of highlight a few of them for you. The delay control, if you want to build a built-in delay to your process, you can use that. Just set the properties up. You want to build a delay in for a minute or 5 minutes or a day or whatever.
Sure. And you just get one of my favorites, actually, the compensatable transaction up there. So what we've got there is essentially there's a set of actions in here for long-running transactions. When we think of traditional database stuff, it occurs in the microsecond kind of, it's over 3 seconds is long for a database. This stuff is meant to set up compensating transactions for things that may take weeks, months, could take a very, very long time to run. So you do have long-running transaction in here with the ability to write back-out transactions in case something fails. So that's a very, very key thing when you look at this and you start thinking about, say, a document approval chain or supply chain scenarios, and definitely lends itself very well to that as well.
That's right, Joe. And also you got fault handlers. You have all the traditional programming constructs like the if-else, if-then-else. You can go ahead and invoke web services, invoke other workflows. So you can actually nest workflows together. You have a parallel control. This is kind of a neat control. This allows you to have multiple tasks running at the same time. And the way it works is the first task that finishes out of that group will complete that parallel activity. So it's like a race. So if you have that type of programming need, the parallel control will be one for you to go ahead and use. You also have the terminate, right? To terminate a flow, web service input. There's a while construct, and my favorite, along same lines as yours, Joe, is this transaction scope control. Like for example, let's say you have a stored procedure that does a debit on your database, and you have another stored procedure that does a credit. Well, you always want those to happen in sync. You never want to have one without the other, because then you're going to have a corrupted database.
Sure.
So what you could do is you can have two activities on your flow, one doing the debit, one doing the credit, and then draw one of these transaction scopes around it, and if for some reason it fails, both will fail. And so in other words, both have to succeed in order for this to be completed. And if one of them fails, they'll go ahead and roll back the state back to the way it was before you started. So some really great stuff built right in. And we used to have to write reams and reams of code. Anybody remember those little spinning balls in Com Plus days? Right, to do something like that. I mean, it's just amazing now, some of the stuff that we have just with drag and drop.
Now, a few notes, there's another general category in there, which scrolled all the way down the bottom, Russ. You'll see like web service input and output.
Yeah.
And then when you look at that, that's just one way of getting stuff into and out of here, but there are a bunch of different input-output points. A lot of people initially look at this and go, oh my God, where's the SMTP email I/O? We don't actually supply one, but if you download the 3.0 SDK and you go in there, the first example is a send mail component. So essentially, in the SDK, we give you the source code where you can compile and add your own send mail component. So if you also go to netfx3.com, there's a lot of sample components that have been put up there, and then we're also seeing some going up into codeplex.com. So the community is starting to contribute a lot of components around this. We're also seeing resellers starting to put together business domain component packages too.
So, Joe, what I did there while you were giving some great feedback on some of those other controls, I did a drag and drop of the code component right into the sequential workflow. I did a simple rename in the properties over here to test it. And then now we can go ahead and double-click on it and actually start writing the code that Joe was talking about. So let's go ahead and put in a system .diagnostics, and we're going to go ahead and write out a little write line to the debug window as part of this. And we'll go ahead and put in a hello. What would be a Russ and Joe developer show without a hello world example? All right, so we got our code hit, and then the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and back up to our web project here. So we're going to add a few references in here so we can access the workflow libraries. So we'll go to add reference. So this is the initial project we started with. So this is the client application now we're on. I'm going to come down over to the system workflow set of components here. There's 3 of them. We're going to pick up the workflow activities, the component model, and the runtime. So now we got references to that in our web application. Also, we want to add a reference to the demo workflow library. How come that didn't take? I thought I called it demo workflow library. What did I hit the OK and I hit cancel? Let's see. Can we do a rename and get away with it here? Let's try this. Demo.
I may not refactor the whole thing. I may just want to drop it and re-add it. Oh.
We'll take a shot here. If this doesn't work, then we'll true test here is, and I'll go add. Let's add a reference to that project. There it is.
Yeah, your workflow in there will workflow library 1. You can see it in the namespace got up in front of you right now.
Oh, it's going to screw it up there.
Well, just rename it. Double click on it.
You know what I'm going to do real quick? Let's just go ahead and delete this. Like you said, I think that's the best bet. Go ahead, Joe. You can talk while I'm doing this.
Talk. I just talked myself out.
Great. I couldn't shut you up before.
Yeah. Hear that, folks? He's trying to suppress me in the workflow dialog. All right. Hey, we got questions. Why don't we go to questions?
Go ahead. Answer
where
the question.
can we obtain the code from the Microsoft demo sites such as Contoso and Litware? I don't think the Contoso stuff is public, is it, Russ?
Don't know.
I'll tell you what, I'll take a look at some of that, and if I find an answer, I'll post it out to DevFish, and I'll have Russ cross-post it to russtoolshed.net. And then the next question, how would two WWF applications on two PCs communicate with each other via web services? I don't know if I'd use web services if they're on peer PCs. There's two, neither one is an active server. I definitely wouldn't be going the web services route. There's a couple different routes you could go with that. One would be to use a hub and spoke model where you have a central message relay server sitting there, and they both relay into that, and then it relays back out using a pub sub model. And then the other thing you could do is use peer-to-peer APIs, set up your own communication channel. Remember, we do have SMTP in and out ports, so they could use email as a transport mechanism or something like that. We're not necessarily in a workflow scenario there. We're in a communication scenario, and it's the same scenario as how do you make two PCs that are both essentially user machines communicate with each other, and that's an issue with anything where you're trying to do that. So really what we get into is which communication channel would be appropriate for you, and then you could use code or look for a custom listener activity to do what you want to do there. The workflow, and this is a big difference between like workflow and BizTalk. Workflow is essentially a system that's meant to be embedded inside of an application, like an ISV application or a particular user, say, desktop application. It's meant to own this particular workflow process. You can set up external communication channels to receive input and output, but you're really going to want to go to BizTalk for anything that's, a big hub model there. But let's see what else we got. What do you need to download for the 3.0 foundations if you're not using Vista? All right, so there's a Vista, there's a .NET Framework 3.0 runtime distributable if you're just looking to run the stuff. And I'll actually post a link to that. I'll go dig it out right now, and I'll put that in the response.
Okay, we're just about there, Joe. Great job on the questions.
That's good enough for you while you rebuilt that?
Yeah, did we get the cues all taken care of then for the questions?
Well, last time I looked, yeah, we're good to go right now.
All right, so we'll go ahead and do the right line, and then, I'm just about there. Hello again, and, okay, my ending semicolon. All right, we're caught up here. So I went through, I just re-added the project in, re-added the XAML page. We got the reference still looks good, okay, over here up in the client application. So that's all set. Next thing we'll do is save this all. And I'm going to go ahead and go up to the website. We'll go ahead and delete that web page I got in there. Let's go ahead and add in. I got another one we're going to go ahead and put in. And I got the default page here. It has a little bit of a UI already painted on it, so we don't have to waste time with that. And let's go ahead and bring that up so you can actually see it. And so on this particular page, it just has a little bit of a user interface where we've got a couple of text fields where we're going to load through the state, the zip code. We have a button here to go ahead and run the workflow. All right, so this is where we're going to actually put some code in to run the workflow, instantiate it. So we're going to go ahead and create our workflow runtime, start it up, and then create an instance of the workflow itself, which you see being done right over here. And there's our pricing workflow object that we have in our project right over there. So this is all set. It's ready to go. What I'm going to do to prove it's actually working is I'm going to go back over to the code, just hit a breakpoint right here, take the default page up on top, and let's go ahead and fire this up.
Russ, here's a weird question. Will SCOM 2007 be able to map the application code for custom XML management pack creation? I believe he's talking about our new System Center stuff, and I got no clue on that.
Yeah, me neither. That's something I got to learn a little bit more about myself. If you want to drop either Joe or I an email on that, we could try to bounce it off one of the internal aliases.
Yeah, I'll give him an email.
All right. So our application's firing up here. It just got done through building. Now it's going out and bringing up the page. So the idea here is now we're just going to basically kick off a workflow. All right. So we've gone through all the moving parts here to get yourself up and running in your very first workflow application. Right. We went through, installed the SDK for the workflow. We went and created the workflow program project in our solution, and then now we have a project that's actually being called here, and it's going to go ahead and hit this page. Try it again. In the debugger. Huh. Let's go ahead and take a look one more time at that code here. So inside the default page, we're creating the instance. Let's just double check these names here. Demo, workflow, library. We've got the pricing workflow piece. That's all good. Let me go ahead and check my references. Let me go ahead and already exists, right? I wonder if we have to. I wonder if I have to delete that reference from.
Yeah. Oh well, I can't see it. You see that little demo workflow library with the red dot in there? Click on that and delete it.
Okay.
Just click cancel. See that, Red? Kill that.
That's the PDB file.
Yeah. Get rid of that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead and delete it and then re-add reference.
When I did that rename stuff, I think I screwed it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add a reference now again. That's better. Nice work, Joe. Now I'm really screwed. I have to actually go out to the references for the website and bring up the properties.
Kill that.
And we want to remove that one. Okay, that's what we want to do.
I feel your pain.
You do, yeah. Okay, add.
'Cause I'm watching it.
Reference. Okay, there we go. Now we got a good one. So let's try this one more time. So once again, you saw the the mechanics involved in creating the workflow. What we're going to do is we're going to take this workflow, make it a little bit more complex, more of a real world type thing, where we're actually going to be passing parameters in to the workflow. And I don't know why this isn't hitting it, man.
Where are you breaking it?
I'm breaking inside of the in the workflow instance here. Maybe we rebuild.
Try it without the break. Make sure it runs. It did run good?
Well, this is the test to see if it runs here. If it's hit the hello world in your debugger, if that comes up. I just did a rebuild on both projects, so now we'll try it one more time.
Better.
Oh, I forgot to close the page. Let me try it again. All right, I'm going to do my Rod Sterling imitation here. Picture, if you will, would hit this breakpoint and come up. I got some plumbing problems here, I think, in this demo, so we're going to go ahead and move on and continue this. So in the designer, then, what we saw here is we have the code activity that we have. Let me see here. With the being called from the client application. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and delete this activity, seeing how it's not working too good anyway. And we're going to go ahead and create something different here. We're going to go ahead and create a drop an if-then-else clause in here, because I know many of you will be using this when you're doing your workflows, just kind of get show you how this works. And then we'll go ahead and rename the activity itself here to the calculate tax. And then what we'll see here is after we've done that, we'll go ahead and take a look at these condition names. So we might do this left condition here, and we'll say if it's Arizona, we're going to go down this path. And if it's any other state, we'll come down to the right here. So in the is Arizona path, what we could do is I'm going to bring up this properties window just see a little bit. There's a condition you can specify here if you want to do it in the code, or if you want to do a declarative rule condition. Now, declarative rule condition is part of the workflow diagram. And what we can do here is say, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and create a conditional expression, and we'll just put in. So this is a new thing here. You got to go ahead and put the condition name in. So let's put that in as the is Arizona, and go ahead and create the expression. And so the expression here we're going to say is this dot order I don't see them there. Hold on. Oh boy. Let's see here. Oh, I know. I forgot one thing here. So let me go back. I'm sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and I got to add a component to this project that we're going to use to marshal the arguments back and forth with from the front end, and that's going to be a order object. So what I'm going to do is add to the solution a class library. All right. So add new item. We'll just go to a regular old class library, and call this thing WF order. I just added an item. Hold on a second. I'll go ahead and get rid of that. right there. The project we want to put in there, so we got that in there. And then we're going to go ahead and add in a class. I have ready to go here. So we'll throw that in there. And then we'll take a look at adding a project reference now to the WF order project. And we'll go ahead and do the same for the website too on top. Okay. So now we got our plumbing straight, and let's go back in inside the code here for the pricing page that we were at before. We're going to go ahead and get rid of, add some code in here for the instantiation of that object. And then we'll go ahead and put in some code to use in the workflow in a little bit down here in the code activity. So we'll go ahead and take care of that in a minute. All right, so now we got that. Let's go back out to our diagram. And now we're back on track here with the Arizona. We've got the calculate tax. Now let's go back and try this declarative rule. Bring it up, try it one more time. This dot order. There we go. Oh, so IntelliSense is so nice. You know if you're dead wrong real quick or not. You know what I mean? So, and we'll go ahead and do the state. AZ. So we'll put our test in here for the state. Let me do a save all. Let's see here. Oh, do we, one key thing I've got to do here at this point is build the solution. Now it'll pick up the IntelliSense for the order object. So we got one error here. Condition has an invalid value. That's what we're working on. Okay. So let me get rid of that. Yay. I hear a round of applause going on out there. Okay.
Yay.
Okay. Oh, boy, that darn Arizona state. I tell you, that was really tough. All right, so now what we'll do is in the, as far as the code activity goes, we'll drag it right over here where this activity is. Okay, and now we can actually put a little bit of code in here to handle this event. And so we're going to go ahead and call this thing the AZ tax. And go ahead and bring up and just put an amount here where we're going to say, okay, we're going to go ahead and put a 10% tax on this particular rate. So then on the other side of the workflow, what we can do is put this down over here for, you know, default tax. Come down over here to the we'll drag a code activity over here. And so there, inside of that one, we'll go ahead and put in, we're going to do a, instead of a 10%, we'll do a 5% for that particular route. Then finally, what we'll do is we'll go back over to the web application, and we'll go ahead and put in, just wanted to show you the code that would be used in the click event. I'm going to delete the stuff here. It's very similar to the way it starts out, and it's just oh, let me try this here. I'll go ahead and copy this right here, then I'll explain it. All right, so the code then is as follows. We're going to go ahead and create our workflow runtime, create an instance of our workflow like we did before. We're going to create an instance of our object. And now in order to pass parameters into the workflow, what you would do is go to your dictionary, create a dictionary object here from string to object, with the parameters that we're going to go ahead and pass in, which will be the text box, the order field, and then we're going to go ahead and pick the state up as part of that object, and then that total amount that we had. So those two text boxes that we had up on the screen, we're going to throw those into the order object, pass that into the workflow, then go ahead and start that up. So now those will be accessible to the workflow object. Then finally, what we'll do is in the back in the workflow, we're going to do one more thing. In the designer here, we're going to come down at the tail end of this, and we're going to put one more chunk of code in here to go ahead and show the totals. All right, and then this one here, we'll put a piece of code in here to right out to the debug window as well. That casing, I can't stand it in C#. Okay, right line. And then we get to the order object and pull out the total. And then we'll go ahead and put in the two-string conversion. Okay, so we got that coming up here. So we got a nice flow here. If we go ahead and build this, zero warnings, zero errors, validating the site. So now what happens is we go ahead and execute this application. See, I don't like this, Joe. It keeps coming up with this. No, it should have already done this. It should have already. I've said yes. Oh, I've been picking run without debugging, haven't I?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no wonder that it wasn't working before. All right. I thought I was picking. I don't even read them anymore. I thought I was picking the one to go ahead and go debugging.
I'm not touching that.
All right, thanks. Must be that lack of coffee so far here today.
I'll set your alarm personally.
Let me take a few sips of this coffee.
Well, you are on West Coast time, right? And it's because it's 12:47 and you haven't had any coffee.
All right, well, let's see here on the output window, and there it is, coming through with 110. It's working, baby. It's working. All right, let me go ahead and put a breakpoint right down over here. I'm getting so excited now. I'm back on track. I'm going to do this one more time. And now I won't get the message to go to debugging because it's modified my config. Oh man, I feel so much better now. So now we look at that. We hit our breakpoint, and if you come down in here, you can see the order coming in 100 and the tax is at 10%. Right. So if we go ahead and finish executing this, and we'll go back and bring back our app. Let's do the great state of Florida here. And we know the cost of living is lower here in Florida, so you can go down and take a look at our order information. And sure enough, the tax is down to 5% instead of 10%. Total's coming up at 105. So how about that? The crowd goes crazy. Yay! We got through our demos there. Sorry about that little tweak. I didn't mean to. I knew this thing was working right. I just didn't hit the right go into debug mode. That's all in that particular project. All right, any questions, Joe, at this point before I go on? Because we'll go
I got one I'm working on that I got handled. You got a woohoo from Tony V.
Yeah.
And then I'll keep popping along.
All right, let me go back out to the deck here, and we'll go ahead.
I did get a nice root canal. Would have been easier, I believe, here.
Yeah, really. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, y'all are developers, right? So you can feel the pain that you go through every once in a while, and little stuff like that happens. So I want to talk about activities real quick, okay? Because activities are very, very key in creating a very flexible and adaptable workflow environment. So if you take a look at what an activity is, I kind of make an analogy here to components in regular programming, where you can go ahead and create an object and then have it reusable in various workflows. And the way you create it is you derive it from the activity class. You can see the code on the slide right there, and then go ahead and create your own public methods and properties and expose those. So let's go ahead and show you that. Go right back out to our VPC image. I'm going to add one more project here to the solution. All right, so that's been added. And then what I want to take a look at here is we got to add a reference in this guy to our order. Calculate shipping activity, add a reference, CF order. And then go ahead and build. What these are, you notice each one of these, you got one for calculate shipping and calculate shipping in Hawaii. Very similar, line of code in there, so they're going to modify the order subtotal. And the way that you would use these now is you go back over to the designer, and let's go and say what we're going to do is, you notice when I did the build now, they appear over here on our toolbox over here in the upper left. And so what I could do is drag that onto the workflow just above, say, the show totals activity. There we go. And now I've got that to go ahead and add some code into my application. Now if you take a look at the code that's in that component that I just brought in, calculate shipping, you see it's got its own little designer thing. Come down over here, you've got the component. In this case, we're going to derive it from a sequence activity. And then we're going to go ahead and put in the one line of code and expose this property to execute the code for the subtotal, adding, say, 10% to that. So now if I go ahead and go back up and fire this off, what we'll see is we come back down and we have our own reusable component or activity that we could incorporate as part of our workflow. And so I still got that breakpoint I think set in the app. And so when you click on this button, we can go ahead and get that new activity incorporated as part of our workflow. So what does this mean? This means you can have really the sky's the limit in terms of the workflow that you create. You can go ahead and be creative in terms of the different flows that you have, and it allow you to go ahead and be very, very creative in your workflows. All right, next thing I want to show you is the state machine designer. If we come back out, let me go back out to the deck and just talk briefly about the state machine. The way I like to think of the state machine is something that has a status that gets modified. And the status in this case could be like an order status. It could be even if you're thinking of a simple example, like maybe boiling water for a cup of tea, right? You can have the state of that first process be, my pot's empty. Then the next day it's going to be it's full. The next day it's going to be it's boiling, and the next day it's going to be poured out. So that would be an example of kind of a state machine, a very simple real world kind of an example. So the way you actually start this up, let's go back out to the VPC, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new project here. And this time we're going to go ahead and create a workflow project for the state machine. And so the way you actually start this out is you go ahead and simply drag and drop components onto this diagram. You see you've got an initial state, work state, and maybe this one here, maybe you want to call that the waiting for an order. And then what we'll see here, you notice you get a little red exclamation point there, and says the initial state name property must point to a valid state activity. So we have renamed it, so the property needs to get readjusted here. There's two properties in here worth mentioning on the state machine diagram is the initial state, all right, and then the completed state when you get done. So what you would do then is just simply go and drag more of these state machines, give each one a name on the diagram, like maybe the second one might be, order open state, order process state, and it might be, order completed state might be the last one. So in terms of the state machine, then what you do is go ahead and just click on the last one here for the completed state, and that's the start of building your state machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I'm just going to navigate out and bring up a completed example here, and we'll show you that. Under the completed solution here. And in this there is a client application, which in this case is a form application now, instead of a web application that we had before. And so now you can actually see this kind of flow in process. Here comes the app. And this particular example, again, is based off of like an order entry. Here's the form, right, that's going to kick this off. Back. Let me just run it for you. And then you can see the behavior and the application, and we can show you the workflow that corresponds to that. And the way you wire up the workflow to this form app is the same way that we did before. So you'll recognize the code when we drill down into that. So we're going to go ahead and create the order. Let's create an order ID, say for 1. All right, so there's our order. You may have noticed a real quick flicker over here in the order state going from the initial state to the order is now opened. And then if we go ahead and say, okay, let's go ahead and process this order. Now the state of that process has been created. And now we'll go ahead and ship that order, and it's completed. So we went through the full cycle of the state processing there. If we take a look at the flow diagram that's associated with that, you can see that right here you've got the waiting for order, open the state, you've got the orders processed, and the events that are associated with each one of those would be inside the code of those particular state machines. the form that goes to consume the workflow. If you take a look at that, we'll go and bring up the form here. So like when I went ahead and created the order, all right, we just go ahead and created a workflow instance like we saw it done before. We used the raised order created event for that particular instance, added the list view item, so added a new item to the list view for the workflow, and then go ahead and when we did the update, again we hit the update button status here, and we've got an event associated with that as well as what changed. And then there's the big switch statement depending on which event we want to raise. So, if we have the order shipped or order updated, they would call the corresponding events in our workflow right over here. So I just wanted to kind of give you an example. I know, Joe, you like the state machines, huh?
I like the state machines because they apply themselves to non-structured workflows. So essentially, whenever something hops out of an event state, or a state on it changes, it moves into another event state and can immediately exit. So some of the things in there really don't lend themselves real well to flowchart type things. If you actually go to DevFish and you download my workflow slide deck up there, there's a pretty good example of something like that that's floating around up there if you go to devfish.net into the download section. But it really clarified when I saw this one particular example of routing a bug document through a typical approval chain and how it really didn't apply to sequential workflow, but it did apply real well to a state management workflow.
Okay, I was just looking at some of the question and answers there. We got any other outstanding questions before we wrap up here with some slides?
There are 47. All right. I was working on a gen, I believe it was up in Pennsylvania, about the weather, and I pointed out to him Florida has no state income tax, and that the weather is beautiful. We only got one bad season. It's summer, and it's awfully darn hot. But hey, what's a little hurricane between friends? Yeah, all right. All right.
I replied about that WFNetFX3.com, which I have on the slide here.
Why don't you pull that up real quick, and then will the PowerPoint used during the conference be available for download? Russ has promised to post them to his site after he gets done posting the one from his last webcast and probably the one before that. So I'm sure after this, Russ will immediately be uploading all of his PowerPoints after this webcast, right?
They're actually, if you go out to this site here, put it on here.
Just give it to me. I'll put in the answer.
Well, I want to put it up on the screen so everybody sees it here. And it's www.msdnevents.com/resources. This particular deck and these set of demos are available for download. I believe it was under the summer content. So if we go ahead and copy that, let's do a web slide here, insert a web.
Now, one thing while you're doing that, I wanted to point out one of my counterparts, Jeff Barnes, and I, we're actually gathering information about people who are using Framework 3 apps or Ajax apps or WPF or WPFE apps in the state of Florida in particular. If you're doing that, you feel like sharing, feel free to email us at jhealy@microsoft.com. We get weird things going inside sometimes, and sometimes the corporate's looking to talk to people, or we're just looking to find out what's going on. But the more we know, the more we can help out. And it's jhealy, JHEALY, at Microsoft.com.
So I brought it up, Joe, and under the fall 2006 events, you will see a Windows Workflow Foundation exposed. There's the sample code, the PowerPoint. We even have a recorded session there too, so you can take a look at that. So it's another great resource is this particular site. We do run these events all around the country. Another great resource on that WFX site is, oh, wait a minute. You don't see it. Only I saw that. Sorry about that.
That's why, when I said I didn't see it.
Okay, I missed that part. Okay, now do you see it?
Hold on, I'm answering a question. Yes, now I see it.
All right, there's the fall 2006, and there you can see the Workflow Foundation exposed. So That's all in there. And also, there is a go back out to the deck here. That on the NetFX3 site, I want to pay particular attention to one resource out there. I mean, there's a ton of resources, a lot of great slides, a lot of great hands-on labs. But Mike Talty, one of the DEs out of the UK, did about 20 dev nuggets on this site, all around workflow, and they're really done nicely. For those that have never seen a dev nugget, it's a very concentrated, like 10-minute to 15-minute kind of recording on one particular topic. So, for example, if you want to store state in a database, we didn't even talk about that today, as part of your workflow, and then rehydrate that state into the workflow, he's got demos that actually show how to do that. And then to wrap up things here, a lot of great user groups in the area. I encourage you all to attend these. Those that are in the Florida area, go out to my site or Joe's site, toolshed.net or devfish.net.
Alabama Code Camp for anybody in the Panhandle of Florida or around the Alabama-Georgia area is April 14th on a Saturday in Mobile, Alabama. alabamacodecamp.com.
And next quarter, starting tomorrow, actually, I'll be doing a show up in Chicago for those up in that area on these three topics. I'll be over at Woodridge. We got free half-day events, 3 great topics. These are really killer sessions. In particular, Joe, I love the best practices session here. ASP.NET, Ajax, best practices, some killer stuff in there. Windows Card Space, all about identity management, and some of the new stuff that we have with 3.0 framework. And then we actually have, cross-browser and cross-server websites with the Ajax library. We actually show that running on PHP, and so we got just showing the total flexibility of the Ajax library. Some really great stuff there. And other than that, that's about it. This is our contact info. I want to thank everybody for attending. I know Tracy has some very important announcements to make now regarding the evals. I really hope you spend the time to fill them out. Joe, you have any parting words?
Russ, you're great.
You're making me choke on my coffee. Thank you very much, Joe. And Tracy, go ahead, take it away.
Excellent. Thanks, Russ.
Okay.
And remember, for more information, everyone can print a PDF of today's session. And in order to do that, just go to the File menu in your upper navigation bar. Now, I'm going to be posting a survey here in just a minute. If you would all please take a moment to fill it out before you log off. We really do appreciate your feedback. As a reminder, for any upcoming and previously recorded webcasts, you can visit Microsoft.com/webcasts. Also, if you have any webcast content ideas, if there's something out there you'd like to see and haven't yet, we'd love to hear from you. Just take note of this link here. And for anybody who's interested in receiving a free 14-day trial of Microsoft Office Live Meeting, you'll want to visit Microsoft.com/presentlive. Now for filling out that survey today, you're going to be automatically entered in to win this 30-gigabyte Zune digital media player. So that gives you a little incentive to fill that out for us today. And here is the survey. Please follow the links provided to complete today's webcast evaluation. And with that, I want to extend a very special thank you to both Russ and Joe for your presentation today and answering all the questions we had come through. Also want to thank the audience for attending today's Msdn webcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this will conclude today's session. The audience may now disconnect from the audio portion of today's presentation.